In this video, we'll look at the strategies and tools for matching capacity and demand. We had already understood that demand is something which keeps fluctuating in a very capacity constrained service business. What happens when this entire demand keeps fluctuating and you do not have enough capacity to serve the variations in demand? There are ways in which you can cope by adjusting the demand to match capacity or by adjusting the capacity to match the demand. Either one of these techniques can be used for managing demand. Let's look at the first one, where we'll try and understand how to cope with fluctuating demand. Generally, there are 5 basic approaches that are taken. Number one, take no action and leave the demand to find its own levels. What do you mean by taking no action? Basically, you just don't take any action, whatever is happening, just let it be on its own. Because what happens over a period of time, customers, they will try to learn from the own experience. Generally, when you try to visit, say, a bank, or you try to visit any particular store, and you see that the lines are actually variable, you will try to look at that particular line which is free. Somehow, through word of mouth, you can expect to stand in one particular line for a service, or you move on to another line for the service. And if you feel that, okay, there is too much of what do you say, demand here, and I'm not being able to get my service in due time, then you'll probably move to a competitor. The negative approach of taking no action is that they'll leave you and they'll probably go to the another service provider, and they'll go and take the service from that particular service provider. The next thing you can do is reduce demand during peak periods. Now, peak periods are the time when you have most of your business coming in, but you cannot always go about trying to match the kind of demand. So, what you'll try to do is you'll try to reduce demand. There are certain techniques to reduce demand. We'll see that in the next coming slide. The other thing you can do is increase demand during low periods. We'll also see the ways in which you can do that. We can use a queuing system. Inventory demand using queuing system, generally used when you have a large number of people. So you increase the number of counters and you basically serve almost all the customers who are coming in using different queues. So you have multiple counters, more the number of counters, much easier for you to basically serve a large number of customers during peak periods. Helps a lot during peak periods. The next way is to do with reservation systems, mostly used by all. Airline services use reservation, your restaurant services will use reservations, because giving this reservation concept, what happens is that you know that you don't have to go to the restaurant and basically wait in line. If you reserve for a particular period of time, you know you can book that slot and somehow you can serve by giving that additional facility. The service being the restaurant service giving that additional facility, it's allowing the customer the flexibility to be able to use the service. So service marketers generally use reservation systems a lot, and there is reservation systems by segment also. Generally, business in airlines they do that. Business travelers have a separate reservation system. Tourists will have a separate reservation system, which is not the same for business travelers. So looking at the 3 and 4, which I point 2 and 3, which I mentioned, we'll try to see how you can manage demand or shift demand or adjust demand to match capacity. You can try to reduce demand during peak times. During peak times, a large number of you have a very high demand. So how do you reduce demand? How do you ensure that you serve all the customers and somehow reduce your peak time usage? Because during peak times you may not be able to serve everyone. That is understandable. You try to communicate with the customers and you try to communicate and basically encourage them to use their own service at different time slots. So try to communicate and ensure that you have some people who come in at different periods of time. The only way is communicating the message, so that they know at what periods of time they'll be able to visit and take your service. Generally, I do know that salons are generally filled on a, in my area at least. Thursday night, it's like generally a lot of crowd. Fridays and Thursdays are huge amount of crowd. So I try to utilize that service generally on a Wednesday or a Monday, when I know it's less amount of crowd. And if he generally communicates to me, if I have to go there and sit and wait for my hair to be cut, and he tells me, if I because I really want to take a service from him, so he'll basically communicate to me and he'll tell me, don't come on a Friday or Thursday. Come on a Monday. Come at so and so particular time. I generally do not have a lot of customers coming in during that time. Only if he's able to communicate this to me and I'm able to understand this. Now, this is a face-to-face communication because I visit this salon near my house a lot. He tells me this, I understand. So I know next time I'm not visiting that salon on a Thursday or a Friday. I'm visiting on a Monday or a Wednesday at a particular period of time, which he has basically told me, and I go only during that time. I don't have to wait. So I get my service, and he's also able to get a customer who's happy. Modify timing and location of service delivery. Restaurants do this a lot. So if you know that you're not able to serve everyone at your table because during peak times all the tables are full, what do? You also give an additional home delivery service. So I really want to eat the biryani from Danish. It's able to deliver it to my house, and or if I give takeaways apart from just restaurant service. So what happens is that that's an additional service which you're providing. Timings in theater. Look at the timings that theaters have. If I have a late night show, why is late night show basically given? Because there are people who cannot make it in the daytime. These are off timings where you're still making business, you're still providing your theater service, and you're still trying to make some amount of business. So basically, by doing this, you can reduce demand during peak times because people will not really book on a weekend. The weekend is always full. First day first show is full, people will try to come on a different days. So, and generally what is, in order to attract people, you offer incentive for non-peak usage. If you try to watch a movie on 10 a.m. shows every day, it's the cheapest. It will be like 80 rupees or 100 rupees per ticket. But if you're trying to watch a movie on a weekend or on a Friday when the movie is released, it's going to be the same 100 rupees will be 300 rupees ticket, 350, 400. It could be anything. It could also be like really 500 rupees for those really big blockbuster where you have the mega stars part of the movies. So you offer incentive for non-peak usage so that people come and utilize your service during the non-peak hours. Somehow you're able to what do you say, satisfy all the customers. Set priorities. Set priorities for desirable segments. This is generally done with airline services. What do I mean by setting priorities for desirable services? Basically, to shift customers to if you are serving both business travelers and tourist travelers, what people will try to do is that you will try to manage them separately. And for a business traveler, airlines will basically try to ensure that he's given the first preference. Tickets are actually blocked separately for business travelers. They are given assurance of tickets, so at a higher price. And that's your next point. You charge full price for certain segments, and you set a priority. Charge them like a really high rate, so that business travelers really want a ticket. They have to go for that particular client meeting to a particular location. They cannot miss that meeting. So they cannot go to a general agent, or they cannot just go online and search for tickets just like everybody does. Search for the best price or anything like that. Those prices are only given to tourists or any other customers who has to fight. Basically, look at when it's available. It's not available, then look at the next available time and travel. But it's not the same for business travelers. They are given assurance of a ticket by paying full price. Those seats are blocked separately. So, and the airlines are very smart. They try to not show. They try to ensure that a business traveler does not travel in economy class using a cheap ticket, which is meant for the tourists. So they try to do this so that they can serve different segments and also set priorities accordingly. Increase demand to match capacity. That's the next part we are going to look at now. In order to increase demand, you have to basically educate your customers about all the service offerings that you have, because sometimes not being aware of the services that you have to offer is also where you do not have enough footfalls, people coming to your service. A lot of salon services actually have this problem. People are not actually coming to utilize all the services that you have. In trying to do that, you have to differentiate basically on price, highly differentiate on price, give them some kind of discounts, some kind of offering. Basically, weekend price varies. You can have Friday evening prices. Restaurants do that. Every Friday evening, there's some kind of off. I know a pizza restaurant in Mangalore, which is Wednesdays, they give buy one pizza, get one pizza free. So you vary your service offering. You differentiate on price. You vary basically how the entire facility itself is used. Now, I do know one particular what you say example that can come to my mind is where car washes. You can provide mobile car wash, or basically you can so what you have your catering services. You can provide mobile libraries. Different medical facilities can also be provided on a mobile service. Basically, you're giving it at a different, you're changing the entire facility. You have a car wash, but you're also providing on a mobile car wash, varying basically your time of what you say when you're trying to serve the customer, which is an example which I've already taken. On weekends, you serve differently. During summers, you'll serve differently. During winters, you'll serve differently. And during holiday periods, when there is some mega event coming up, say Christmas, Diwali, so you vary different service offerings during that time. You offer basically bundle services. You basically bundle one service and the other one. You try to educate them in advance. When you try to educate about these services, what you can try to do is like COVID. COVID is the best example. During COVID, people basically have a signage that due to COVID, we are only open between this time to this time, and we are not open any other time. So this is something you basically advertise about this. You make your customers aware about it, so that it's not like they come and land up at your service location and they find that you're not there, you're closed, or before a particular festival that occurs. You basically try to understand. You basically you try to. I'm sorry, I'm repeating words. You try to educate them about it. I'm just randomly trying to think of different examples, but the idea is increasing demand is a very marketing technique which is used anywhere. It's more like increasing sales, because you have the capacity, you have people, but you do not have people. You don't have enough people utilizing your capacity, so you're basically underutilizing your entire capacity. You're basically trying to ensure that it's fully utilized. I just realized I'm using the word basically a lot. Uh, Next thing, what you can do is adjust capacity to meet demand. How do you adjust capacity to meet demand? You increase capacity temporarily. This is something which happens everywhere. Suddenly, you have a sale going on, a festival sale. Uh, you'll have a lot of people coming in. Sundays, a lot of people, a lot of footfall. So you need to stretch your people, facilities, and equipment. You need to ensure that it is available for a longer period of time. Stretch people as in your staff. They can do an overtime on say Wednesdays when it is in Big Bazaar. Wednesdays a day when there'll be a lot of people who come in. It's like a Sante where people lot of discounts are provided, so you have no more number of people. So need to have enough number of store operators who can actually cater to these people for their requirements. When you say stretch people, you the other things that come around stretching people is the point two and three. Let's come to point three. Cross train employees. You cross train your cashiers at a superstore should also be knowing how to basically stock the items on the shelf. At times when there is really no people coming in, they can do that work. But during peak times, they can the people who are stocking can actually come and handle some cash registers if you are basically having additional cash registers. So cross training employees is one employee, even though his primary work is to do only one work, he should be able to do the other work if need arises during peak time. Use part-time employees, additional people, like even college students are used as interns, who for certain times periods when they really require more hands to be able to handle the customers. When you do this, you're increasing your capacity so that you can meet the additional demand, access demand, so you can adjust your capacity. Outsource certain activities for which you are not really so good at. You can outsource it. If you do not have the capacity, you do not really employ everyone, outsource. A lot of service organizations do this. They outsource even though they serve a lot of clients everywhere. A lot of IT service organizations, they do this outsourcing a lot. And they do a lot of, they hire people on contract basis. You can take for facilities or equipment, you do not have to buy all the equipment. You can go for rental, use rental equipment. A lot of photography services, wedding services, event planners, they do this. They basically rent equipment. Not everything that they have is their own. They rent. They take two photo shoots using rental equipments, using rental cameras, using rental equipments. Maybe the tripod stands. If the camera is their own, the tripod stand can be different, can be something else which they have rented. Video equipment can be rented. So you to provide your service, it's not always necessary that you need to own everything. You can basically rent your facilities. This is the point where you increase capacity temporarily. You can adjust the use of your resources. Adjustment. Generally, you can do a schedule the downtime during period. Sorry for that. I hope you're able to move to this point and continue from here. Uh, my laptop basically conked off. The battery died, so you'll have this entire gap in your video. I hope you have forwarded and come to this point. If you have, then basically what I was talking about is scheduling downtime during periods of low demand. This is what I was talking about. Generally, when you do not have enough people coming in during this time, what you can do is utilize this additional time to perform your repair and maintenance activities. A lot of repair and maintenance activities generally happen during this period of time. Uh, you can also give your employees, which is your third point, some kind of vacations during this time. You can train your employees during this time because there is not much demand. You're not basically serving customers around this time. So why you need to do all this around this time? Because during peak periods you can utilize the bandwidth of your customers, of your employees during this time. During peak periods, to serve the customers efficiently and effectively, you can use the downtime periods for doing all the repair and maintenance activities. You generally get a message from the banks that we are undergoing a downtime between this period to this period. What do they do during that time? All their servers which need maintenance, backup that needs to be taken about their data, they do all that during this period of time. Generally, it happens during night time so that they don't disturb the customers in the daytime. and customer services are not affected, online services are not affected. Generally, downtimes are at night time. But there are the periods of time when downtimes could be in daytime. Utilize that time to for other activities. Now, COVID was the best example when things halted, when there was a complete lockdown. What the road transport authority, or rather the people who look after the roads, the they did a very good job because traffic was vehicles were not flying on the roads. They utilized this time to do a lot of road repair work. For them, it was a downtime. Not that it was a scheduled downtime, not that something they had planned, but unplanned because of COVID. There was a lockdown. Everybody were at their home. Nobody is using public transport or their private transport. Roads are free. Best time to repair the roads. Because once people come on back to the roads and you start utilizing it, it's very difficult for them to actually do the renovations and maintenance operations. Modify or move facilities or equipment. The best way is to adjust use of resources. If you do not have, bank is the best example. Now, not you do not have enough people beyond the customer tellers who operate and meet the customers. What you can have is kiosks. ATMs are a best example, which has been utilized for providing additional, an extension of your additional, the same basic facilities for withdrawal of your money. Restaurant tables. If you have people who want to take a party, okay, or they want to hold a party in your restaurant, but all your restaurant has only two size tables which can only cater to two people or three people or four people, and these people and the crowd that is coming is like 10 people. So you can just join tables and have a separate area for catering to customer tips. So basically you're modifying, or you're moving your facility, you're moving your equipment around, you're adjusting the resources that you already have. That is nothing but the entire the concept of adjusting what resources you have currently. The one more example I can think of is utilizing your current resource or your current capacity. Is Uber Pool is a very good example. Uber cabs, when they came up, each person would utilize a cab. As the crowd started increasing and there was a lot of traffic jams, Uber came up with this concept of Uber Pool, where you can share, or Ola share. So you can share a taxi. So you have the same resource, but you're catering to more than one customer. So it can also be given as an example of stretching your equipment. So you can either say stretch equipment, it's not temporarily, this is a permanent thing. You're basically modifying your facility or modifying the equipment that you have to provide your cab service. That's also a very good example of providing a new service. It's a cab service which was provided to one person and provided to multiple person with a sharing option. The next thing that we look at today is managing waiting lines. This is also one of the ways of managing the access demand, or generally access demand. We do this to manage and serve all the customers equally, and it's also basically you're trying to modify your existing capacity to serve many. The pictures itself indicated very clearly, and there are different types of queuings queuing structures or queues that you can come up with, and you, from your own experience of visiting a bank or airport or a superstore, or hospitals, you'll be able to see different types of queuing system. Why do they create this? Based on, they know their requirements, they know then the kind of footfalls that they have in their store, and based on that they do it. Single line, single server queues, self-explanatory. You can see the ATM machine there. It's, if there's only one machine, you'll have to stand in single queue, because nobody is allowed inside at a time. Or if there are two machines inside, then you'll basically come in as a single line, and you'll split into multiple not lines but multiple different machines. Parallel lines or multiple servers. This is generally what you see in a bank, where they're already providing you multiple customer multiple tellers to serve the customers. Snake queue. Now, what exactly is the snake queue? A snake queue is something you get to see in an airport, where everybody comes in a single line for a security. But when they come to security clearance, they they are sent to different counters. Each one will go through one particular security. That entire I'm not getting the term right now. the scanner that you need to pass through so that it can detect whether you have anything on you or not, any kind of metallic object. So you all come in a single line, but you split. That's a snake queue. So it's more like a single line, multiple servers. That's what a snake queue is all about. Then there is the token system. Token system generally you'll see in hospitals, at clinics, doctor clinics you'll see token systems, or you'll see token systems even in banks. Earlier banks used to have token system. Postal services, not really, but some postal services earlier had a token system, not now. But government offices, certain government offices will have still have token systems. Come, take a number, sit. When your number is called out, you can basically go and get your service. Designated lines. Supermarkets have this example. Like you can see a picture over there. Most of the supermarkets, most of the lines, 80% of the lines are used to serve all customers. But there is special lines. You this express line. You see this express queue for less than 10 items. This is done so that you don't have to, if you're just purchasing two items, you're purchasing one biscuit and probably one chocolate, you don't have to stand in a line where a person is purchasing probably products worth 10,000. You don't have to wait till he finishes. You can get into designated lines for less than 10 items and quickly have a checkout, which is helpful. But if that facility was not kept, nobody would have come to a supermarket to buy a less value product or lesser products. They would rather visit any kind of kirana store to basically get that done. Then there are other queue systems, something called as a triage, which is an example which is written in there. Patients in the hospital who are assessed by nurse, basically what she'll do is she'll try to understand what is your condition and she'll assign you to a doctor based on your need. You'll have a diagnosis. Most of the hospitals, they either there'll be a PG or an intern who will diagnose you and take your heart rate and do your heart rate checkup, your BP checkup, and all of that, and then send you accordingly to the required doctor if you are not aware of whom you're supposed to be visiting. A very simple concept, managing waiting lines, but there is a lot of mathematics that go behind it. There is a lot of queue algorithms that people go into as to how to develop queues. In fact, there is a subject called as operations research, in which there are these queuing algorithms, and where you also have problems in that on how to design the most effective queue to be able to ensure that you serve all the customers who enter and utilize your service. But that's all we have for this entire managing capacity and demand. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next video. Probably for the next module, we are finished with the entire module 2, and let's look at further modules in the coming videos. Thank you so much.